No. Good afternoon, everyone, to the Clearview Accessibility Advisory Committee. Meeting's coming to order at about 3:33. Could I have an approval of the agenda? Be it resolved that the Clearview Accessibility Committee hereby approve the agenda dated April 12th as presented. Can I have a mover and a seconder?
I'll
Deb?
move it.
Okay, and Ted? Okay, any negative, all those in favor?
Nay.
Any naysayers? Okay, motion carries. Disclosure of disqualifying interest or general nature thereof. Okay, the approval of the previous minutes. Be it resolved that the Clearview Accessibility Committee hereby approve the minutes, the meeting minutes dated February 8th as presented. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Ted? And Deb? Okay, any negative? Okay, the motion carries. Business arising from the minutes. Can you update us on the voting strategy for the municipal election? Has that gone to council now? Has it been approved?
I don't believe that has gone to council yet for approval. I think
Okay.
that's still a project that's coming forward in the coming weeks.
Okay. Okay. So I guess we can move on to new business. Dan, you have some stuff to talk to us about?
Hi, and thank you, Madam Chair, for allowing me to come to your meeting today. And speaking with Tammy a few weeks ago, I had a few ideas, a few questions, a few requests for ideas, I guess, from the Accessibility Committee, because we've got some exciting news that we've received our new bus. It's a brand new bus for Clearview. It's extremely similar to the bus that we have now. So there are accessibility built into the existing bus and the new bus. Like I said, they're very similar. But what we are going through right now, and there's a request for proposal that we've partnered up with Collingwood and Wasaga Beach. So basically a tri-party agreement or tri-party request for proposal for transit services. And as part of the transit service, we are required to initiate or have available for our transit riders specialized transit. And I truly didn't know what the answer was, and I'm hoping that this group could provide some insight on what the need for specialized transit is in our community, keeping in mind that specialized transit is only for our serviced areas. So, if we do not partner with Collingwood and Wasaga Beach, our specialized transit service would be for our Stainer area and up to Wasaga Beach. So if we do partner up with them and have a tri-party specialized transit, that opens up more avenues for that need. So specialized transit would be offered not only in Stainer, but theoretically somebody from Stainer could go from their home to a doctor's appointment in Collingwood, let's say, or somewhere in Wasaga Beach to go shopping or visit somebody. So Collingwood has been offering specialized transit for some time in their transit service, and I was asked the question on what our need was, and I'm sorry to say that I didn't have that answer, and I'm just reaching out to your group to find out that information, because that will give me a better idea on the viability of specialized transit partnership with those groups. So it was more of a bit of a presentation, but also just an ask of your group and maybe some input on what the need is and how big a need there is for that.
They're still providing bus service into Greenmore, yes? Is that bus service still being provided or not at all?
No. So it was not very successful, and then when the pandemic hit, it was pretty much non-existent. So we canceled that as a pilot project. We ran it for how long did we run that? I think 8 months. I think we ran that for eight months, and like I said, it wasn't very successful. Maybe it didn't get a fair shot, and it's not to say that it won't come back, but that's not running currently at this time.
Yeah. Does anybody have any comments? Go ahead, Deb.
I was just going to say it's about time. We really do need this service, not just in Stainer, but at the beach as well. You're very isolated if you do not have a car, or a lot of your regular transit routes are great. Don't get me wrong. When I was in Stainer, I used the regular transit routes, but the bus stops aren't always in the right spots to get off, and you still have to walk to your doctor's office or the service that you have to go to. So there is a great need of it both at Wasaga or in Wasaga Beach and in Stainer. It would be great. It would really be awesome and be very helpful to those of us who have no other means of transportation. Do we know if there'd be a cost on that, and whether it would be the same cost as the regular bus, or specialized costs, or how would that work?
Yeah, so through your chair, those are things that we are looking at. Again, we're trying to make a decision. The tender closes for the new transit provider, so depending on what the costs are that come in for that, then we're going to get together and decide as a group on the viability. Like I said, the viability of entering into a tri-party agreement or go alone individually. So one way or the other, the Stainer transit service route will have specialized transit, and we've with the purchase of this second bus that we have, we will now have two buses. One will be our main bus. The new one will be our main bus, but we'll have a spare bus, which, in my mind, is going to be the specialized transit route bus. So there'll be an extra cost for the municipality. How we pass that on to the users, but that's still to be determined. It shouldn't be, it can't be really more than what it would be to take a regular transit bus.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I don't think it really matters the cost. We just would really like to have the service, and I know hopefully it could be in conjunction with Wasaga Beach and Collingwood, because all three places could really use that type of transit.
Yeah, and that's our hope too, is that it does open up those transit routes more. So, if we don't have a tri-party agreement or a tri-party group, somebody getting on in Stainer at their home and needed to go to Collingwood Hospital theoretically would have to get off at the Superstore or the Ramblewood, or I guess at the Superstore really, and ride the transit into Collingwood. if we are in a tri-party agreement, then that specialized transit could take them directly to the, let's say they're going to the Collingwood Hospital, let's say. They could take them directly to there. So it's all about boundaries and agreements and all that kind of stuff, unfortunately. But I think it's between the three, directors of public works that are talking about this. That's our hope, that we can work out something, and it's proportionate share too, right? Collingwood's bigger, Wasaga Beach is bigger than Stayner, and so it would trickle down to what our costs would be.
Okay. Does anybody else have any comments about it?
Do we have any idea of usage right now and the areas that are being serviced and will be serviced with any expansion? Is there a grid laid out for the possible expansion of those services?
Of the specialized transit?
No, either way, just
Just a regular.
the three of us.
Well, we certainly do have transit numbers. Like we track our ridership on our existing transit. The pandemic has certainly hurt, and it's slowly building back up. But prior to the pandemic, we were almost 13,000 riders a year, which is relatively good for a small transit system like that. And I think what we don't know is how many of those riders needed the accessibility component of the existing bus. Like, we haven't really tracked that very well. So that's really, I think, the information that I don't have, that I can go report back to our little group that we're meeting with, is to say how many of those, we're back up to about, I'd say, 8,000 riders last year, I believe it was. And how many of those 8,000 riders needed that, the accessibility ramp and the lift and all those types of things. So I'm not sure if this group knows on how many people would need that service or qualify for that accessibility service, specialized transit service. But if you could maybe just in the future, like, it doesn't need to, I don't need the answer today, but if you want to put some thought to it and what it is, on the expansion of our existing transit, as our development grows, we're getting new development starting up on the south end, so like around the Margaret Street area, and then in off of Mowat Street. There's more and more homes being built over that way. So I'm anticipating as more people move into those homes and those roads get rebuilt, within the next few years, we'll be looking at expanding that service or changing the routing, let's say, perhaps not. And the whole raft of things that I want, like, the county service, we're both the county and our Clearview route, they're basically following each other up to Wasaga Beach, 20 or 15 times a day, right? So I'm trying to align that with the county. Unfortunately, they don't run weekend bus routes, so a whole bunch of things on the transit front that way.
So with the Lynx bus and and if we had the specialized service, then that would, like, somebody who can't walk but needs transportation, maybe to Barrie or whatever, then the specialized service could provide them with a link from their home to a bus stop as well, right? Because the specialized service would be limited to Collingwood, Wasaga Beach, and Stayner, right?
That's correct. Yeah. So I would foresee, if somebody needed that service, that was, would take it from their home to the Township Administration Center. Administration
Okay.
Center is where the Lynx bus stops to go
Mhm.
back to Barrie or to Wasaga Beach. So, theoretically, they could ride from their home to the Administration Center, get on a Lynx bus to go to Barrie. That's where I see that happening or that working.
Yeah. So Collingwood has its own, like, they have a specialized service right now.
They do, yeah.
Yeah. So how much ridership would they have?
They have quite a bit. Yeah, I don't know the numbers exactly, but they said it's quite successful, and that they do have quite a number of riders. Some days it's busier, some weeks are busier than others. Winter is obviously a little bit busier.
Yeah. I get the concern with the geographical area that they're covering. And if you just have one specialized service, now they have to be, like, they're usually booked though, right? Is that essentially what happens?
Yeah, you have to book them ahead of time at 48 hours or something like that. That it's not quite an on-demand where you pick up a phone and say I need a bus, at 10 o'clock, call them at 8 o'clock in the morning. I need it at 10. It does have to get booked. Yeah. So if like I said, if you have an appointment, or if you have, if you go shopping on a Wednesday at noon every week, something like that, that would it would have to be booked.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Andrew, do you have any comments?
Sorry if there's a bunch of background noise.
Okay.
Is the idea of this specialized service that it would be, for lack of a better reference, door to door, so you could go from your house to, the parking lot of doctor's appointment, whatever? Is that?
Yep, it's exactly it.
Yeah.
As long as it's within the service area. Like I said, it would only benefit. It benefits, the user if and when we do enter into that tri-party agreement. So if we're all together, Collingwood, Wasaga Beach, and Stayner, or Clearview, sorry, you could order it from, or have an appointment in, like I said, I'll use the hospital because it could be other things. If you have an appointment at a dentist office in Wasaga Beach, then you would take it from your door right to the door of the dentist office in Wasaga Beach. If we aren't entered into that tri-party agreement, then it would only be within the service area. So we would be able to then take somebody from their door to the super center, and then they would have to get on the transit in Wasaga Beach and travel within the Wasaga transit area. So
I think it makes a lot more sense that you can get somewhere in Wasaga Beach or Collingwood. I think that almost benefits Clearview residents a lot more than it would a Wasaga or a Collingwood resident. Just for the fact of, like, the hardest part of traveling is the transitioning between, when you're sitting on the bus, it's easy. Being in a wheelchair, the hardest part is, getting on the bus. Also, the riskiest point of something happening too is getting on and off of the bus. So if you now make this multiple times that you have to get on and off buses to make it to your destination, it does create a lot of complexity for somebody in a wheelchair or somebody, with a mobility aid or whatever else.
No, and that's, it's very understandable. And like I said before, between the three of us that are talking about this tri-party agreement, we just don't want to commit to anything yet, just until the request for proposal comes in, and we see what the actual costs are going to be, and we all have to go back to our councils to provide the information to them for that funding and what those costs are going to be. So.
Okay. Ted, did you have a comment?
I did. I was just trying to identify what specialized service was, and it sounds to me that the biggest factor of it is pick you up at the door as opposed to going to a spot on a route. Is that the main idea with the word specialized service?
Yeah, essentially, yes. You know, there are some criteria as well that the people have to meet the requirement for that specialized transit.
I see.
You know, it can't be a 25-year-old you can't
One of the
you know
fishback.
you know able-bodied the you know
Yeah.
25-year-old that can't just call up the transit and say I need to be here. It's not a taxi service. It's for people with the accessible need to go right from their door instead of traveling to a bus stop.
Yeah.
And does that bus then have the ability to pick up wheelchairs and all the other things that would help someone with accessible issues?
Yeah.
Be
Yeah,
the future of that bus.
Yeah. So the I guess the good thing is because we have this new bus that's coming into service, the existing bus that we have, although it be 5 years old and a lot of kilometers on it, it'll be that accessible bus. So the buses don't differ. The same infrastructures on the bus as far as the ramp and the lift and the tie downs and all those types of things, the security. But the bus that itself won't be any different than what we have now. So, it's just that you can order the bus, like I said, for a Wednesday afternoon, you can order the bus to pick you up at your home and take you to an appointment or grocery shopping or to wherever. As long as you meet the criteria of having that need for it.
Yeah. And you
so
would find
just-
over time. Sorry, Andrew, go ahead.
So I just want to kind of get a definition of door to door, because in Toronto with Wheel-Trans, they call their door to door service, like they will help you get literally from your door. So if you need help down your stairs or down your driveway or whatever else, it is a door to door service. Is that the same kind of situation we're looking at, or is it a door to door as in they'll be in your driveway and you have to get up to the door of the bus?
I think that's something that we're going to need to negotiate with the service provider. That would be
Just
my,
something to
that
think
would be,
about.
yeah, sure. Yep. No, understood. And that would be my, intention. Let's put it that way. Again, it depends on who the service provider is going to be for our transit services and what they can and can't offer.
Okay. So you're just asking for a request for proposal right now?
So Collingwood took the lead. Collingwood took the lead on because when it was prior to me coming to Clearview, but the bus service had started, and when it started, we joined in with Wasaga Beach's service provider, which is the same as Collingwood's. This time around, as this, we've extended our service contract with Landmark for 2 years. Collingwood just went through a transit master plan. And so in talking with Collingwood, they offered their service and their consultant to assist Wasaga Beach and Clearview with our overall transit provider. And as part of that discussion on the overall transit provider, the specialized transit component came up, and we talked about that as well. So in the request for proposal, or the request for, it's not a tender, but yeah, I think it's a request for proposal. Yeah, it not only deals with all or overall transit, regular transit, I'll say, it also, there's a component for specialized transit. And there's two components of specialized transit. One is each individual does their own thing, or a joint one. So there's going to be different scenarios put together on that.
Yeah, and I think for Clearview, the best thing would be for us to be with the other two, because most times people are going someplace else, like you say, like the hospital or doctors or dentist appointments, that sort of stuff. We probably will see more things in Stayner as the growth happens, but right now it's kind of to get to other places. that being said, I'm not sure how you'd get those numbers. You can probably come up with kind of a ballpark figure of how many people, based on your ridership, you probably have, this many people that have certain accessibility issues. Like there's probably a percentage number of that have accessibility issues. And then if you look at that, and maybe we're missing people because they can't get to the bus stop. Right.
That's right.
And I know, Deb, when you lived in Stainer, you were right
Yeah.
across from the bus
Yeah.
stop. So,
Yeah.
it made it a little
Yeah,
bit
it was
easier.
perfect. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
and that's really where I'm coming from is how many people aren't, maybe they're using a taxi because a taxi will pull to there, and how many
Yeah.
people are using friends or other driving services to because they
yeah.
they just can't take the transit that's offered, and how many people are that. So
Yeah.
again, I didn't know
Well,
if you had the answer or
Yeah.
if you had a general idea, but that's kind of what my my reasoning for coming to the meeting today is just to
Yeah.
kind of put that feeler out there and just if there's
One of
some,
one of the places we might be able to get that number. I know whenever Steve was doing the initial transit, you may be able to get some of those numbers from social services at the county, because that would give you people that needed to access medical travel and transportation, that are still accessing it. Like if you ask for the numbers, like that are still accessing taxis and stuff like that, even though the bus service is available, they're accessing taxis and stuff like that because they have mobility issues. And they can probably help to provide some of those numbers because they'd be able to do it by area. Well, there's Councillor Broderick. Good afternoon, Councillor Broderick.
Hey Deb, how are you?
Good. Yeah, I like, and that would just give you pretty much people that are involved with social services. But is there some opportunity to maybe set out a survey to Clearview residents, like just about transit, whether there's specialized needs?
I could see that, in our service area. Like, again, I don't want to send it out to all Clearview residents because it's unfortunate that it's not for that. It's just for our transit area.
Yeah.
So, what I have done, and since I've talked to Tammy there about coming to this meeting, is just having our bus drivers trying to just track them on account and how many people use the lift in a day or every time they do use the lift. But some people that have those mobility issues or the need, they'll still be able, they're still able to walk onto the bus, and maybe it would be more beneficial for them to use the specialized transit. So, it's a hard thing to, but that's a good idea as far as a survey and getting the information from Simcoe County Social Services. So,
And what was ridership again?
Pardon me?
What's the annual ridership in Clearview? 1,100, 11,000. I forget your number.
Yeah. So in our, I'd say at our peak prior to the pandemic, we were up to almost 13,000 riders in a year. We've really bottomed out during the pandemic, but I think back in 2021, I think we're back up to about 8,000, just under 8,000.
Well, that would be a good group to survey if you could, because they'd know other people.
Yeah.
I would expect.
Yeah. Is there some, it's all privacy issues, right? But is there some way to access people that get monthly passes, right? Or people that get, that purchase tickets and stuff like that? Is there some way to access that through a survey? I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, I think maybe a survey to Stainer residents, in general, would probably be fairly well received. Again, if you're targeting the existing transit users,
They're already sold.
they're already using it, right? So
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
my would or my concern, I guess, or my reasoning for it would be the people that aren't using it because they just can't and want to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, and you think like there are residents that are at Blue Mountain Manor and stuff like that that might access the bus because they're not, they're still out and about.
Yeah.
Can still be out and about, I guess, is kind of how it goes. And that would just open up more things for them. That's one place. Is there, I'm sorry, I'm trying to think, is there other retirement homes in Stayner where people might be going out? All I could think of was Blue Mountain Manor, kind of out of
Yeah.
off the top of my head.
I don't know.
Oh, Councillor Broderick, you're on mute.
Yeah, there's a couple more.
Yeah. Because those are maybe places that you could ask fairly quickly, you know, whether there would be people that would access specialized transit there.
I think Tammy had a question or comment or.
Thanks, Dan, through Madam Chair, Dan. And it is, when we're talking about the specialized transit is for the Stayner area. That is correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
just want to clarify.
And it's defined by our transit service area. So the areas that we currently service is in, so which would be all of Stayner and then up to Wasaga Beach. That's our service area.
Yeah, we can only wish for transit service in New Lowell.
I've been pushing the county. In the last 2 years, I've been pushing the county because they've been doing a transit master servicing plan. That it would only make sense to run that bus that goes from.
Well, if you came down Airport Road and across 9.
Yeah.
As opposed to going across the highway and down 10, you would hit New Lowell and Brentwood.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's what I said. I've been pushing them to rethink that route because they would get at least some riders, because once they leave Brentwood, they don't hit another stop till they get to Stayner. So they could even potentially pick up people at Cashdown Corners. You know, people might come over from Creemore to get the bus to go up, but
well, and the other thing too is I think you would find students would access that service.
Yeah.
Right?
So
like
I've been trying, let me tell you.
Yeah. Well, you know, with the price of gas too, like I've been going up to Stayner to pick up my grandson, and by the time you do the loop, you've done it's as long as it takes me to get to Midhurst and back. By the time I go pick him up and go to Stayner and then come back home again, I've done 30 kilometers or 45 kilometers, right?
Yeah.
So it just makes a lot of sense if it just connected somewhere else, because Brentwood's great if you're going somewhere else, but it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. If you could get to New Lowell, it's just so much easier for people to get somewhere else, right? Where they're going.
It's a better route. It's a better route in the winter.
Yeah.
Kenner Road 10's not nice in the winter, that north of there.
Well, yeah, it's just the hill at the 7th is the worst. Anyways, yeah, those are kind of the only places that I could suggest that you might be able to get more information with that, as far as people. But I know that Steve got a fair bit of information about the medical travel and transportation, and you'll probably see that they'll be able to give you information as, you know, people kind of going from Stayner to Collingwood or Stayner to Wasaga Beach, be able to provide that, and that'll give you at least some idea.
Yep. No, this great idea. This is great information. Like I said, that's the reason why I wanted to come is, you know, the survey is a good idea, and the link to social services is certainly a good idea too. So thank you.
And you know, another place you might check is the Ministerial Association. They may know of people within the community that may access, like, would access something like that, some sort of service like that. And if you talk to the ministerial, then you'll hit kind of interdenominationally. And it's it's just a suggestion, because sometimes whenever we're looking, there's a hidden amount of people that we don't know that there are issues, but the ministers in the community seem to know that information. Yeah. Okay. And are you going to tell us about sidewalk projects?
Yeah, sort of on the same vein. Again, talking with Tammy, and we chatted a little bit, and there was some information that came back from the accessibility committee about some little additions and things that the committee would like to see, or did see last year, especially around the main intersection there. And this is more, I know everybody wants new sidewalk. That's not really what I'm talking about, unfortunately. It's more for, where are the problem areas that you see, or your committee sees, and where you feedback that you get from people within the town. And this topic would be for all of Clearview Township, so not only in Stayner, but also in all our, Nottawa and New Lowell, Creemore. The problem areas for accessibility issues, because I think it's important. Not that I don't think adding new sidewalk is not important, but we have a different approach to adding sidewalk with our urbanization reserves that we're working on and growing, hopefully year over year. This is for replacement of existing, or trying to tackle problem areas, I guess, if that's makes sense. I know there's a huge need for new sidewalk, don't get me wrong, but I was just more focused on replacing existing sidewalk problem areas, and maybe a new ramp that needs to be cut into a curb somewhere because it's something's amiss, or things like that. So that was the reason for that. Like I said, I know there's a huge need for new sidewalk, and we're working on that as well.
Yeah, and I guess what it comes down, well, in New Lowell, we don't have the urbanization, right? We have the big ditches and stuff like that, and that kind of negates some of the moving forward would involve putting in storm drains and all that other stuff as well. So it's pretty huge. I know that they did make some sidewalks. They put some new stuff down along County Road 9, which is good. I don't know, does anybody have any comments about their areas, or anything that they've noticed? I know.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Deb. No, go ahead.
Talking over you. While I was still in Stayner, I found that the going from like the sidewalk onto like a road and then back up onto the sidewalk again on the other side, those curbs are really bad. They are broken. A lot of them are broken. They're wobbly. And even with my scooter, it was really hard to negotiate them. So I could imagine that someone with a walker or even a cane would have a hard time on some of them. And a lot of them had pieces of, I guess the pavement broke. So there was pieces of pavement on it. One particular one was at the little park on, where the fountain is.
At Oak Street?
Yes, thank you. Yes, in that area, they were really bad in that area. Now, I don't know if they've been fixed since then or not, but I know that one was really bad. And the one down by when you come from Tim Hortons, that street, you've got Oak Street, and then you've got the street next to Tim Hortons, and
Mhm.
that in there was really bad as well. And the ones by the doctor's office were bad too. And they don't need to be replaced. They don't
Yeah.
need to be replaced per se. They just need a little bit of love and attention. At least they used to anyway. I don't know if they've changed since the pandemic or not.
Mhm. Now, I know that Manfred had a lot to say about the sidewalks down along north-south from Tim Hortons to the medical center. And I guess there's a sidewalk on the east side, but then with the new development where Charlie's is, there were
Mhm.
sidewalks put in there,
Yeah.
but I don't think they go anywhere, right? Like
You can get up them with a scooter on one side, and then when you drive along them, you can get back down again. But once you get back down again, then it turns into a mess down by
the medical center.
yeah, along from
Yeah,
there.
like Reinhardt's and
Right,
yeah.
yeah, all along there, it gets really rough again, and it's hard to. I was always afraid of going along there because I was afraid I would pop a tire, or you would have to go out onto the road because someone was parked across the sidewalk, which was extremely dangerous, especially with the trucks that went along there. So, and you're kind of like.
You're talking about the paved, like, so there's asphalt there. So where the sidewalk ends at Charlie's Diner,
Yeah.
It's paved the rest of the way up to, and I know there's some pretty nasty holes in there too that that form all the time.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Once you get past Reinhardt's, then it turns into gravel again. When you come out, the big trucks come out of there. I don't think they're called, I don't think they're gravel trucks or anything, but.
Is it Yard Boys?
Yeah,
It's
maybe it's past the little creek.
It's not the Yard Boys. It's where the trucks go in and load from behind. It's right by the creek.
Yeah.
It's by the creek.
Yeah, it's just on the other side of the creek between the creek and the doctor's office. It's a mess in there.
Yeah,
it's horrible.
That's Dalton Lowe. That's Dalton Lowe's yard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really bad in there. Yeah. But they need they just need to be, as I said, they just need a little bit of love and attention. That's all. Excuse me.
I guess there is, there just isn't a sidewalk, like there isn't a sidewalk there. It's just not developed. It's not really developed.
Yeah.
Like you said, Deb, the sidewalk all the way up the east side of the highway, I guess it just, hasn't, like you said, it hasn't been developed enough on the west side to get the sidewalk. It's a paved boulevard everybody uses as a sidewalk or as a hard surface, but it's just not a formalized sidewalk. So that, that would be an area where there's the proper drainage in place, that there's
what about the weight of the pickup truck? Sorry for interrupting. I apologize. What about the weight of the transport trucks coming and going out of that yard all the time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So typically on commercial entrances, you'll make your sidewalks a bit thicker.
Okay.
On residential areas, they're a little thinner, but so if you're crossing there, you make them a bit thicker. The gravel base underneath would be a bit thicker as well, so that can hopefully withstand and hold up to the the weight of those trucks.
Sorry for interrupting.
Because the turning of the tires on the asphalt is really what's cutting that asphalt away, and you get concrete there, it'll be a bit more stable. So
yeah, I guess what would be nice to see is, if the unfortunate part is the medical center is on the west side of 26, and for people to get across, like if you think about it from an accessibility point, they can come up the east side, but then it's getting across to the medical center that becomes the issue,
Yeah.
right? Unless the crossing guards are there, but they're not necessarily there for the adult public to
So
cross there, but that's,
Yeah,
So
I
I
have,
have
I
some
have
information on
crossed
that.
there.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, so I have some information on that. So
Mhm.
we are in the process of designing a pedestrian activated signal at that
Perfect.
location at North Street.
Nice.
We are, to my surprise, I guess, when I contacted the MTO last fall and had suggested that we do this, because it's within the connecting link area, that they, not to say that they don't have any concern, but they would have less concern because it's in a connecting link in town, I'll call it,
Mhm.
than they would, and it's within but out further north of town. So
Yeah.
there is some bit of work to do. They said we have RJ Burnside, our engineers, doing some design work that needs to happen to satisfy the MTO, and then we have to go back to our council to change our connecting link bylaw to include that pedestrian activated signal at
Nice.
that location.
Excellent.
So hoping we get going in the fall. That's my target,
Awesome.
that we can get
Okay.
something in there. It's literally really no infrastructure other than a few poles and some electricity, really.
City.
But,
Yeah.
Excellent.
so that's underway. We are going to be going back to council within the coming weeks to place to get some funding for placing a temporary asphalt sidewalk, I'll call it, along North Street. So the section of North Street doesn't have sidewalk. So we're going to come back to council, like I said, either late, either the next meeting in April or sometime in May, because we've had a contractor out there to give us some pricing on that. That was a request from, I believe, Councillor Walker at budget time. So we're going to be coming back with that. So we've certainly heard the concerns on that area, not only for sidewalk, but also a safer, more proper crossing at that location.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be a full intersection signalization, but if a pedestrian were to need to cross there, I think they put one just recently. They're popping kind of up everywhere, but there was one done in oh boy,
Was it done in Ottawa?
no, it's in Springwater somewhere. Anyway,
Oh,
doesn't matter.
okay. Okay.
But it was the same scenario, similar scenario with that goes with it through the town, and that they tried some of those pedestrian signal, the lights, the flashing lights, and those those don't work either because people don't obey them, but they'll obey a red, yellow, green proper signal. So those are in the works.
Nice.
Over and above what we're talking about today, but yeah, let's have an update for that.
Well, it's nice to hear that there's some resolution coming to that area now that, when they were building that plaza, there was a lot, because there was just a lot said about it. But then, they were talking about the medical center and the fact that people couldn't get to the medical center. And that's always kind of been something that's around this table, is that they can't get to the medical center.
Yeah.
Timmy, did you have another comment?
Sorry, no, I just wanted to remind us about the conversations that happened in years past about that road up to the medical center, but you guys have got that covered, and there's exciting news around it, so that's great.
Okay, good. Does anybody else have any other areas that they wanted to bring to Mr. Perot's attention? Okay. Okay, well, thanks for the presentation, Dan, and it's nice to hear that things are still happening, and look forward to having some more information about the transit service and kind of what's going on whenever you find out a little bit more. I know if it's a request for a proposal, maybe it's kind of something that should kind of come back to the accessibility when things are a little bit more concrete. Just maybe to have.
Yep.
that
Yeah,
you
I
can
can
have a little bit of a
certainly,
look at it.
yep,
Yeah.
I can certainly, once that all closes and we've had a chance to review and analyze the proponents and make that selection on what we're going to do, and maybe prior to us going to our council, we can come back to this committee and just present what was offered and what we're leaning toward as far as the selection and
Yeah.
service.
One of the things, when you talk about the bus service, one of the things we did do when we first started, I guess this last term of council, is we did take a tour on the bus. And the previous, like when we did our accessibility plan, there was no bus. The last one that was done, there was no bus service. And I know one of the things that we talked about was shelters and stuff like that make it, especially in the wintertime. And, it kind of looks like the bus service is here to stay, and it's maybe something that we should be looking at. And it's maybe something to come to council with, is to talk about maybe making something, looking at putting shelters in certain areas, just to make it a little bit easier for people, because it can be pretty cold out there some days.
Yeah, certainly. And those are things that I'm looking at when we're looking at development as well. So the Nottawasaga Station development, there's going to be a commercial plaza up there. There's going to be the Jardine retirement area up that way. So, and plus all those homes that are going up into that corner. So those are things that I'm looking at when we're looking at development, is putting bus pads. Along with those pads would come shelters as shelters at some point. But that input from this group too would be wonderful on where would be some good locations for those shelters and concrete pads to enter onto the bus. All those types of things is would be helpful to come from this group to myself, that we could put a plan together as we move along. So
yeah,
it'd be good.
Okay, well, maybe whenever we move back in person and stuff like that, maybe we could spend some time with some maps and stuff like that. Maybe come up with, spend some quality time looking at maps and making suggestions and stuff like that. Would be good.
Yep, certainly.
Okay. Is there anything else that anybody wants to bring forward to the meeting at this point in time? Okay. Thank you everyone for your input. I guess our next meeting will be May 10th at 3:30. Can I have a motion to adjourn? That would be Krista. Okay, and Councillor Broderick. Okay, thanks everyone. And we'll see you on May 10th. Okay.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.